It's a simple question. Do 5G home internet services suck or are they okay? Should you consider switching to one of these new affordable services in your home or just stick with what you got? Well, if you go out and do any kind of research on the subject, you're going to get bombarded with information from both sides of the fence. But who's right? So in today's video, we're going to break this down a little bit. We're going to talk about who these services are for and who they're not for, and we're going to break some of the myths that revolve around this subject. Hey guys, Tim Tritch here with Into That Blueprint. Welcome to the channel. Now, if you want to pick a subject that causes just pure controversy on the internet, you got two great choices in front of you: politics and 5G home internet services. I mean, it is unbelievable how crazy people are about these services. They are getting glorified and crucified in just about every Reddit post that I've ever read on the subject. So if you are one who's truly curious as to whether or not these services will work for you, good luck finding an answer that's actually going to help you out. That is, until now. You guys are in the right place. And while I don't talk politics, I will share my experience on the subject as it pertains to 5G home internet services so you guys can decide if this is something worth going after. Now, my advice for anybody looking to use 5G home internet services is always the same. No two customers have the same experience, and make sure you manage your expectations. And here's what I mean by that. Now, I personally have had Verizon 5G home internet as my internet provider for the last year and a half. In fact, last August, I did this video where I talked about my experience using the service 1 year later. And overall, my experience has been really, really good. I don't have many issues. I'm able to stream my TV. I have teenagers in the house who game and are online all the time, roaming around, doing their thing, and we have almost zero issues. Add the fact that I only pay $25 a month, and you can pretty much say I'm a happy customer. However, this is where things can get a little bit muddy. Now, with my Verizon service, I get around 350 megabits of download speed and 40 megabits of upload speed. And admittedly, my network latency is a little bit greater than when you compare it to one of the hardwired solutions out there. But this service has served my needs. It's done very well and suits me just fine. Although you guys might be watching this and go, 350 megs, that sucks. Well, there lies part of the problem. You see, we live in a world where if you want to pay for it, you can actually have 5 gigabit of internet service brought right to your home. And while I stand by my argument that that is way too much internet for any home and a complete waste of money, when you compare that to one of these types of services, it's pretty easy to turn your nose up at it and say that it sucks. So if you are considering one of these types of services, you might need to adjust your expectations a little bit. Please don't go into this thinking that it's going to be just like the fiber service that's in your neighborhood, but at a fraction of the cost. You're almost always going to be left disappointed. But if you approach your testing like, will the service do what I need it to do, but at a lower price, you might be pleasantly surprised. Now, like I mentioned earlier, results do vary. No two homes have the same experience. And the only way for you to really know if the service is going to work for you is to test it out yourself. Now, the good news is these companies have made this very, very easy to do. Typically, they don't lock you in any kind of contract. And in the case of Verizon and T-Mobile, who I've had personal experience with, they even give you the first month for free to let you try it out and kick the tires a little bit. Not a bad deal. Another reason I think these services get a really bad rap is when the person gets their new router, either from the store or gets it delivered, they will immediately go set it up in the original location where their old cable modem router was. And once they get everything set up, if the service doesn't work, they give up and just say, it sucks, it doesn't work. However, these services are not tethered by a cable, and you're going to get different results if you try the router out in different locations of the home. There's a lot of things that play into it. Where the 5G tower is, how much of your house this thing has to go through to reach the signal. Did you try it in the basement? Did you try it on the main floor? Did you try it on each corner of the house? Maybe a second floor if you have one. Guys, I encourage you, if you get one of these routers, you need to try it out in multiple locations. So there's going to be a little bit of trial and error. You might have to adjust a few things based off of where the signal works best. But if you do that, a lot of times you will find success. So the first myth I want to bust is the "he said it sucks, so the service has to suck and it isn't going to work for me" myth. Guys, that person may have had a completely unrealistic expectation as to what he expected the service to be able to do, and it just didn't live up to the hype. That's okay. Or maybe he brought his router home, hooked it up in one spot, and when it didn't perform very well, he just assumed the service sucks. Either way, you cannot base your experience off of what that guy experienced in his house. It's two different scenarios. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that there are not bad 5G home internet experiences. I've heard of many router issues. You can get interference on it where you get frequent drops. It just boils down to your environment at your house. And the only way for you to really know is to test the service yourself. The second myth that I want to bust is thinking that just because you have good 5G coverage on your cell phone when you're at home automatically qualifies you for one of these other 5G internet providers. Now, while these services do share cell towers with cellular users, they use different antennas. So having 5G coverage on your phone is not an indicator that one of these services is available to you. The only way to know for sure is to go to one of their websites and enter your address in, and they will tell you if you qualify for the service. Now, in order to help you out, I've put a couple links in the description here of some of the major players across the country so you can quickly get to these links. And I'm going to show you how it works using Verizon as an example. Okay, so we're over on Verizon's website and we are looking specifically at 5G home internet. Now, I went into my neighborhood and in my hometown and I just pulled up two random addresses. So if these are your addresses, I'm sorry I used them in my video without your permission, but I wanted to show you what you get if the service was not available versus what you got if it was available. So let me pull up the first address here, okay? And I just picked some random ones here, pop that in, and it's going to go make a recommendation as to where you're trying to go. We'll click into that, okay? And it is just, if it's not available, a lot of times you'll get a message like this: hey, sign up for our mailing list. We'll let you know when the service is available. You know, we'll email you, that kind of thing. That tells me, even though this person might have good 5G cellular coverage at their house, that they are not available for the service. The service is not available at their address. Now let's go look at one where it is available, and let me show you what that looks like. So I'm gonna hit change here. All right, go down here. I'm going to pick this other address. Again, random address here. Okay. All right, it's going to go look and say, hey, good news, 5G home internet is available. Which plan do you want to pick? All that stuff will come into play if the address is available. But this is the only way for you to know having got good 5 gigahertz coverage is not going to do it. And they all have a similar experience, whether it's T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T, whatever. They're all going to have an area in their website that allows you to check for 5G home internet coverage. Now, I have seen it where the website does not give correct information. So if you're getting the does not qualify and you think it's an error, like maybe one of your neighbors has a service, so it would make sense for you to have it as well, it's always a good idea to go down to one of the local stores and talk to a rep, because I have seen it where the website is just wrong. The last myth I want to bust on today's video is that a lot of times these services are advertised as unlimited, but people online will go right in and blast them and say they're not unlimited. Guys, this just simply hasn't been my experience. Now, while I can't speak for all the services out there, T-Mobile and Verizon in my area have both been unlimited data. We run a ton of data through my router each and every month. My last month alone was 2.6 terabytes of data. I never received a warning, I never got throttled, and I've never received an overage fee. So it has just been my experience that that is not true. That when these services say they're unlimited, they actually are. Now, the same can't be said for some of my providers here in town. Cox specifically limits data and only gives a 1.25 terabytes of data per month. As you can tell, based on my data usage, I would blow that out of the water. So again, that's just another pro for these services in my household, let alone the price and all the other stuff. So guys, don't be fooled by people just saying it's not unlimited data. Make sure you do your research. So if you're wondering if you should try out one of these services and you're asking me, my answer is yes. Just make sure you go into it with the correct mindset. This is not fiber. And understand too that there could be some tinkering that you need to do to get the service working the way you want. And even after all of that, you may come to the conclusion that it just doesn't work well for you at your address. The point is that you need to try it for yourself to come to these conclusions. Don't listen to the online BS.